The tools that graphic designers are using is changing, and it's always been that way, yes. However, right now that change is rapid. And the first tool that we're going to look at has far more traction than a lot of people expected a few years ago. Now, if you look at Google Trends, you can actually see the interest climbing over time in, you've guessed it, Framer. But the crucial thing that I've noticed is that the conversation around Framer has changed as well. It's no longer, what is Framer? It's, should I switch to Framer? The appeal is quite simple. It removes a step in the design process for a lot of designers. People are using Framer more and more these days because it bridges that gap between design and development really well. Traditionally, designers would make a static layout in something like Figma and then rely on developers to bring it together if they cannot code. But with Framer, designers can actually build responsive, animated, production-ready websites themselves much faster with no coding. And because it combines things like modern interactions, CMS features, hosting, publishing into one workflow, it massively speeds up the process while still looking extremely polished and premium. Now, Canva gets quite a lot of hate. It's another tool that gets dismissed quite quickly by a large part of the design community. And that's usually by designers who don't want to be associated with it. But the figures and the data cannot be ignored. It's currently sitting at over 260 million monthly users globally speaking, which is quite hard to overlook. Its growth has been pretty consistent, especially within marketers and internal teams. And if you take a read through Reddit discussions, you'll see this divide pretty clearly. Most designers tend to prefer Figma, but marketers in the lower to mid tiers of the industry kind of default towards Canva. Which does make sense. Canva isn't really replacing high-level design work as such. It's absorbing everything quick and repeatable. Social posts, internal assets, basic campaigns, the kind of work that used to be reliable income for a lot of designers. So it hasn't really made designers obsolete as such. It's just quietly removed a category of work or given the creative director of a firm an easy and a quick tool to use on the fly. Okay. Now we should talk about Figma, because most people still think of it as a UI tool, but that's not really accurate anymore. It's become more of a central hub for graphic design work, and the numbers back that up as well. It is sitting at around 13 million monthly users, and reportedly around 95% of Fortune 500 companies use it in some way or another. And if you look at actual usage data, it's not just small teams either. It's companies like Accenture, IBM, Siemens, Samsung, all using Figma at scale. And a decent portion of those are organizations with over 10,000 employees. So it's clearly embedded at the enterprise level. But what's more interesting is that it's the same tool being used across the board. Freelancers, mid-level designers, and massive companies, all working in the same environment. Revenue-wise, it's also grown past $1 billion with strong year-on-year growth, and so it's not really slowing down, is it? And if you look at how people actually talk about it, the shift is quite subtle actually. Designers aren't saying they've replaced Adobe with this, but they are saying that they start in Figma beforehand. AI is probably the most talked about change, but also the most misunderstood. The narrative tends to be that tools like Midjourney or DALL-E are replacing traditional design software, but in reality, they're being layered into existing workflows. Adobe's Firefly is now built directly into Photoshop and Illustrator. Canva has integrated AI into pretty much every stage of the process, and Figma is full of plugins that automate layout, copy, ideation, and so on. So we're not really at the point of things replacing designers, rather, we are in the neighborhood of workflow acceleration, which is useful, but it also changes expectations as well, because when work becomes faster to produce, it also becomes easier to undervalue. There's also a quieter evolution happening around tools like Affinity. It's certainly not dominating the market, so to speak, but it's gaining steady traction year over year, mostly driven by frustration with subscriptions. Serif, the company behind Affinity, has shared growth updates and user adoptions right here. And if you browse design communities, you'll see more people at least considering alternatives to Adobe. Not necessarily switching overnight, sure, many have, but a lot are becoming less dependent. Which realistically is a slightly different kind of change. It's more about having control at the end of the day. Now, if you step back and you look at all of this together, the pattern becomes quite obvious. Designers aren't switching tools because one is objectively better in a traditional sense, but they are actually switching because those tools remove headaches or annoying parts of our workflow. Fewer steps between idea and then the final output, less reliance on other people, fast iteration, and that's a common thread here across everything, from Figma to Framer to AI integrations. And that's probably the part most designers miss. It's easy to think, I just need to learn these tools, but the tools aren't really the point of the whole situation. They're just evidence of a larger change here. The designers who are doing well right now aren't actually the ones necessarily with the most visually impressive work. They're the ones who have adjusted how they work. They've reduced the number of steps between concepts and results, and they can make suitable, adequate work at the very least, and they get paid. So if you're watching this and you're thinking, you need to go off and learn 7 different platforms immediately, you probably don't. What you do need to do is to understand why these tools are being adopted in the first place, because once you see that, you can stop chasing the tools. The tools are just tools. They're just a means to an end. They're a way to get your ideas and your skills out there to the clients in the real world. And if you would like to see a different video on how to improve your skills as a graphic designer, just click a video on screen right now. But until next time, guys, design the future today. Peace.